Hey, before we get into this video, I want to remind everyone that we are giving away a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Switch bundle. There will be a gleam.io link down in the description, and we will announce the winner whenever we hit 50,000 subscribers. Next week, next month, next year, whenever it happens. You have a long time to enter. I'm always adding new ways to enter regularly, so you might want to check the gleam.io link if you've already entered, just in case there's already been a new way to enter. I'm just keeping it fresh, keeping it real, and I wish luck to all of the participants. Nintendo and Nintendo Switch has a retro game problem. Now, not everyone's going to see this as a problem because not everybody cares about retro games. But Nintendo has been combating things like ROM websites lately, not just with cease and desist, but threatening lawsuits. And because of this, most of the major ROM sites are already complying and getting rid of stuff before Nintendo brings down the hammer and whatever. Nintendo's also not brought a true virtual console to the Switch, so any game purchases you might have made from Wii, DS, 3DS, Wii U do not transfer over. And on top of that, Nintendo's retro game solution through the Nintendo Switch Online only includes 20 NES games, and they're adding 3 per month. Now, this is all an issue because it means that Nintendo is putting little value on the retro library, at least when it comes to Switch. We all know the NES Classic, the SNES Classic. There's going to be more devices like that in the future, but when it comes to delivering this on their latest platforms, Nintendo is well behind what PlayStation and Xbox are doing, which is strange since Nintendo started this whole revolution of bringing their old classics to their platform with Wii in the form of Virtual Console. And there's this article written by Damian McFerrin over on Nintendo Life. I'm going to link it down in the description because it's an excellent piece. It's notable that this is someone who is not vehemently against ROMs and emulators. So obviously, he's already a little one-sided in that he's way more willing to go the route of playing games illegally like this for the sake of the fact that Nintendo's not giving us a legal method to do it on Switch. And obviously the hacking community has hacked the Switch to hell. They've gotten the SNES Classic and the NES Classic running on there with like an infinite library of games. They've even, the Nintendo Switch Online service has even been hacked with custom NES games added in. So the hacking community and the ROM community have been doing what Nintendo won't do. And I think this is a problem in general, not because Nintendo's going after ROM sites. They're just doing what they do. Nintendo's just they're playing hardball. That's fine. But that's only fine if Nintendo in return is going to give us a legal way to get this stuff. Nintendo had 2 years, almost 2 years, about a year and a half at least. I'm hoping 2 years because I hope they were working on this before Switch came out to bake this Nintendo Switch Online service, what they are doing with the classic library of games. They've had 2 years to figure this out. And what they decided in those 2 years is we're going to only give you NES games. We're only going to trickle those NES games out. And we're only going to give you some bare basics. We're going to let you play the multiplayer aspects online, and we're going to do swap play. Things that like PlayStation 4 already lets you do with many of their games and their classic games. And they offer a much wider library of games. To me, it's almost inexcusable that Nintendo in 2018, heck, we're close to 2019, and their current generation system has a worse method of delivering classic games than their prior, like the Wii U, the failure of Wii U, the Wii, the DS, the stinking 3DS, all deliver classic games better. Nintendo, we're in an age right now where I can throw emulators on my phone and I can play everything all the way through the Nintendo 64. And even on the latest and greatest phones, some people can even get GameCube games to run kind of, sort of. Not the greatest, but the point is that it's plausible that Nintendo themselves can make this work. They could add 8-bit, 16-bit, and N64 games, heck, Game Boy games, DS games. They can throw in 3DS games if they really, really wanted to. They could throw in Wii and GameCube. They could make these games work on Switch. There's nothing really stopping Nintendo from doing that other than their will to invest in doing it. And it's interesting because I think Nintendo is onto a very good concept, a concept that I think Sony attempted but didn't really get right Sony has obviously a streaming service when it comes to playing their classic library of games. And it's not really like a Netflix kind of streaming service like I feel like it should be. It's more of an individual streaming service. Then you obviously have Microsoft with their Game Pass. They're offering a lot of their retro games. And they have full backwards compatibility, by the way, like all the way back to OG Xbox. You stick an OG Xbox game in your Xbox One, and it's probably going to work. They already support a massive chunk of the OG Xbox library. But I digress. That's obviously easier to do when you're working with a disc medium versus an ever-changing mini disc to cartridge to custom disc to back to cartridge kind of situation. So I'm not advocating Nintendo needs to make their old physical medium suddenly work on the Switch. I guess they could release peripherals that hook up to the dock or something, but I don't really think that's feasible or realistic. But I do think that Nintendo needs to do better with what they are doing. What Nintendo has done is they have created what is essentially a Netflix of retro games. That's what the Nintendo Switch Online service is. Maybe forget the putting the multiplayer behind a paywall. Those NES games are a service. You are paying for a service to have those NES games. And I get it. If they threw an N64, SNES, all that stuff, maybe the service would be a little more expensive. But I think it's embarrassing that we are coming to the end of 2018 and we're still only talking about NES games. Still. Why, like, when I could just put emulators on my phone and play N64 titles right now today, how can Nintendo not be offering these titles on the Switch either to buy individually or to throw in their service? And maybe it's an add-on, right? Maybe they treat it like kind of like what happens with premium channels, right? Like when I have the Hulu TV or DirecTV Now or whatever, you can add on HBO for $5 a month, right? Like make it an add-on service. Fine, you want access to N64 games? It's an extra couple bucks a month or whatever. An extra $10 a year or whatever Nintendo wants to charge. They can make it an add-on like that, and then people can choose. They can pick and choose. Oh, I don't care about NES games, but I want the N64. I don't care about the N64. I want the SNES. They could have actually made this a very interesting proposition where here's one price for all of these platforms, and then you can also piecemeal that price up a little bit so you'd only get the platforms you care about. Instead, Nintendo's like, look, we're giving you NES games. Oh, and by the way, we're just going to toss 3 at you a month. Now, this could change. But for now, that's the way it works. For the rest of this year, we're getting 3 NES games every month. The first batch arrives tomorrow. Cool. I'll probably maybe check out Super Dodgeball after I played the hell out of that when I was a kid. Probably play a match against Eric, and that might be it. But as someone who doesn't own any of the retro games anymore, right? Like my parents, many, many years ago, my mom in particular, kind of twisted my arm into essentially either I'm going to go sell my retro collection to get money for it, or my mom's going to throw it all in the garbage. That was basically the choice I was given when I was a kid, because I hadn't touched them in a long time. And I'm not someone who's like a massive retro gamer anyways. I don't go back and play games. So a lot of this advocating I'm making isn't even on my behalf, because I probably just wouldn't make use of it. I didn't make use of Virtual Console over the years very much, and I'm probably not going to make use of this, but just the idea, the peace of mind knowing that if all these games were added to the service, I could play them if I wanted to, or I could capture footage of them if I wanted to, is kind of nice. And bottom line is Nintendo needs to do better. This article by Damian McFerrin talks about how he feels like he's being pushed into doing piracy harder than he's ever done because Nintendo's just not he wants to give Nintendo money. He wants to play these games, but Nintendo's just not letting him. And I know this is a little redundant. You can buy the old consoles and the old games. You can go on your 3DS, Wii, or, well, not really Wii these days, but Wii U, and buy these Virtual Console games still. But even those Virtual Consoles aren't fleshed out. I mean, they're really not. They're missing so many titles from the NES, SNES, and N64 library. Like, I know a lot of us are talking about, man, are we ever going to get GameCube? Are we ever going to get Super Nintendo? Are we ever going to get N64? Are we ever going to get complete libraries of just Nintendo's games, right? Like, it'd be great to have all the third parties. Obviously, that has more hoops to jump through. But the ones that Nintendo published, we still haven't gotten all of those. We don't have complete. There's not a single Virtual Console that has a complete Nintendo-published NES library, SNES library, or N64 library. And now we want them to throw GameCube in there? Nintendo can't even get what they're doing right now. I'm frustrated on behalf of a lot of people. A lot of people I've seen messaging me and talking to me about this and wondering why I haven't been talking about it. So you know what? This video is for you guys. This is for you guys out there that keep asking me to talk about this, and I just haven't because I just don't care enough. But honestly, it is kind of a big deal. I'm not someone that advocates for piracy. I'm not going to lie and say I've never emulated a game before, never downloaded an illegal ROM. That is something that exists in my past, and if that's going to make the authorities come at my house and come knocking and checking all my computers, go for it. The computers I did that on are long gone and in the garbage and in the recycling and stuff. So you're not going to find anything on any machine I've touched in the past, 10 years. But I can almost understand why people feel the way that Damien does. Nintendo's just tossing scraps at you when they have the potential to offer you one of the greatest if there ever was going to be a Netflix for retro games, Nintendo has the ability to do it better than anyone else. And instead it's Microsoft for $10 a month. Yeah, that's a lot more expensive than $120 a year, but that also includes all the new games. Imagine they're not just giving you the old games, they're giving you the new games for $10 a month. Man. But Nintendo for, $20 a year can't even give us more than just 8-bit games. I think Nintendo needs a reality check when it comes to this. I think they need to get their head out of their sand, and they need to realize that I don't even know how they don't realize. I mean, I was about to say they need to realize, what consumers want, but I think they know. How can they not? They have decade at least of history of 12 years at least of consumers showing how much they want to buy these games. They also had the history with the Super Nintendo Classic and the NES Classic showing how much people want to buy these. Heck, they patented a thing to put on your phone to potentially pick Game Boy games in the future. They know people want these games. So why don't they just let us buy them individually or as part of the service? I just don't know. And every single time, every new generation, they have to reboot it. But why? We're 2 years, or almost 2 years. We're 5 months short of 2 years. So I guess closer to a year and a half into the Switch's life. Switch had to been in development for at least 2 to 3 years before it came out. And in all this time, in 4.5 years of development, this is what we got. We got a Nintendo Switch Online service that it functions, I guess, and then 20 NES games with 3 a month. Something's not right, and Nintendo needs to get their head out of the sand, or I feel like more and more consumers are going to feel justified in hacking their Switches. More and more consumers are going to feel justified in just playing ROMs. You know how many people have probably given up on Nintendo ever offering a proper virtual console or Netflix-style service, and instead they're just going to go and emulate anyways? You know how many people have probably given up? You know how much money Nintendo's probably lost? I mean, we're talking in the millions. Time to wake up, Nintendo. Out of all of the complaints I've had, from voice chat to locking, peer-to-peer multiplayer behind a paywall, to not delivering enough games this year, not getting enough third-party support, out of all the criticism I've ever had about Switch, this is probably the biggest. Because anyone who really loved Virtual Console, or anyone that maybe thought, well, it'd be nice, I guess a Netflix service I can get used to, no one's getting what they want here. Yes, the games they have, they work, they function, they're fun, but that's not really enough. And anyone who says it's enough because, it's only $20 a year, it works out to $1.30, whatever, per month, and if you get the family plan, it can be cheaper. I get all that. But this is 2018. We shouldn't just be happy with the bare minimum when we had so much better on other platforms from Nintendo. Forget Sony and Microsoft. Nintendo's done this better. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think about this situation down in the comments below. Again, I'll have a full link to Damian McFerrin's article if you'd like to read more into this. He goes into some other stuff that I didn't want to cover because I didn't want to make it seem like I was copying his article. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. I'm Nathaniel Rufflejants from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do. And if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button. Subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one.